So now we're looking at a poem called Lines for an Abortionist's Office, which was published first in 1936 and then in a book in 1937, also during the Depression, written by Ruth Lechlitner, who was, with her husband Paul Corey, a writer, an active leftist and somewhat associated briefly also with the Communist Party of the United States, a radical. And she writes a poem that I think I'll read to you. It's just 4 stanzas, and you can tell me about the way the stanzas work. Close here thine eyes, O state. These are thy guests who bring to gods with appetites grown great a votive offering. Know that they dare defy the words of law and priest. Better to let the unborn die than starve while others feast. The stricken flesh may be outraged and heal, but mind, pain sharpened, may yet learn to see thee plain, O state. Be blind, accept love's fruit, be sleek, fat, and lip-sealed. Forget that life, avenging pain, will speak. Thrust deep the long curette. That last line is hard to hear and hard to read. What's this poem about? Who wants to take a shot at that? Dave?
I think she's railing against the hypocrisy of the state. Just knowing that all these things are going on, that it's the cause of them, and then it's burying its head in the sand.
Okay, but specifically, by 1936, the state is generally supportive of poor people through the New Deal, but in this particular area, the state is not. Why? What area are we talking about?
Talking about abortion.
Abortion. How is the state not supportive of abortion rights?
It's, I mean, the same way that it's discussed, it's still discussed today. I mean, there's lots of ethical, moral, and of course religious
but you can
debates.
be more specific. This is prior to Roe versus Wade.
Like 40 years
illegal.
prior to Roe v. Wade.
It's illegal.
It's still, I mean, it's
When
completely
you break,
illegal.
it's breaking the law to decide that you need to have an abortion and then have one was illegal. So state could refer to the state of New York, or to the state, capital S, which is what Dave meant, the government. Who else is coming in for criticism implicitly?
Church.
Which church? Is it the Protestant church?
Catholic.
Emily, any evidence in the poem of Catholicism?
Priest. It's a
There's
Catholic
a priest.
clergyman.
Anything else? What about the votive offering? That's going to be fairly Catholic, no?
I suppose, yeah.
Okay. So this is, I mean, why this is the ABCs of abortion politics, but why is this writer seemingly angry at the state and at the church?
I suppose because denying the right to abortion is, in a sense, it's stifling one life in service of another.
Well,
There's
the
an
church's
injustice
position
there.
on abortion is fairly strong.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So what's she saying? What's the gist of this? Let's get to it, Molly. What's her position here?
Well, I feel like she's using children as a metaphor for sacrifice, or unborn babies as a metaphor for
But
sacrifice.
can we be less fancy than that? Just what's she saying on the surface about this situation?
Well, when she says better to let the unborn die than starve while others feast, I think she's saying that abortion is necessary in cases and that the church isn't letting them do it. I don't know.
This is an argument that's still made, that's still in contention. What's the argument?
I think she's saying just turn a blind eye to the issue and just let it happen, kind of.
Close here thine eyes, O state. You know abortions are taking place, so don't look. But what is she saying when she says better to let the unborn die than starve while others feast? What's the argument being made?
I think she's blaming the state for causing the conditions that all these people feel the need to get abortions.
And what specifically is this is an argument that liberals make. Right?
Overpopulation.
We don't even have to go there. Should I have this baby in the middle of the Depression and I can't afford to feed it? Your rules make me have this baby. This is a line that she's quoting, essentially. Better to let the unborn die than starve while others feast. This is an argument about poverty, about women who need to give birth to children they can't support. Okay, so what's her position? I just want to make this clear. Anna, what's the position of the speaker on the abortion question?
She's saying that the state should allow abortions to occur in situations where the family or, in some cases even like the single mother can't.
You're so a participant in the rhetoric about abortions of the 21st century where you're thinking about conditions. I don't think she's thinking about conditions here. She's talking about the right of a woman to decide whether to abort a baby she can't take care of, period. I don't think there are any conditions. Although the conditions of the Depression are ubiquitous.
I think that's more what I was saying, like the conditions of the Depression make it such that in a lot of cases they can't support more children.
So why does, and the stricken flesh may be outraged and healed, but mind, pain sharpened, may yet learn to see thee plain, O state. What's she saying, Amaris, there? Can you translate that?
That physical pain is transient, but...
Meaning the abortion itself.
Yes, but the psychological suffering continues.
And what will the psychological suffering lead her to see?
To see the state and all its cruelty. So she's giving the eyes to, or the power of vision to the woman in question. She's taking it from the state and giving it to...
The state will be blind.
Give the woman the power
the woman
and
can
the agency to see
through the hypocrisy of the state and the church. Why do we keep thinking of church? What's the form of this poem?
It's the same.
Ballad.
It's a ballad. It's an A-B ballad. What's the meter?
Iambic.
3/4.
Know that they dare defy, that's 3 stresses, the words of law and priest. There's your iambic line. The words of law and priest, 3. Better to let the unborn die, that's sort of 3 and sort of 4, than starve while others feast. That's a regular stanza. So it's an A-B 3-3-3-3 stanza. It's fairly we discussed when we talked about the ballads of Emily Dickinson where there are 3 places where we see ballads. One was the pub, and Max, remember what you said about why ballads are good in pubs?
They're easy to sing when you're drunk.
when you're drunk, you can remember the lines, right? The second was the child's bedroom, the nursery rhyme, and the third was the church. So, what do you think, folks? Ruth Lechlitner, a poet, is using the most traditional kind of hymn. She's even using the rhetoric of prayer, is she? Anybody see the rhetoric and vocabulary and diction of prayer?
Yeah, the O state.
O state.
The thine.
Thine. Close here, thine eyes, O state. This is a prayer. This is a hymn. So tell me, what do you think? So this poet is using a traditional form in order to get, the form itself is part of the message. What's the form saying? What's the message of the form itself? This is a big moment in your education as students of poetry.
Well, isn't it attaching an almost sort of divine or at least like deeply moral mission to something which at that time and even still at this time is considered immoral? She's talking about abortions in the rhetoric of prayer and saying that it's not sort of estranged from or removed from the sort of general moral mission, I suppose.
So if she's opposing abortion, she could write a poem in which the rhetoric and formal choices and aesthetic of the poem could occupy a space that's totally separate from the church. But instead, she uses the very heart of the church's aesthetic in order to make a case against it. What do you think?
I don't know. I think there's something deliciously sacrilegious in the way that she...
Sacrilegious.
Yes, I was going to say, that sounds so good.
That's funny. In that she uses, that she subverts the form by just, still kind of using the body of religion when the contents are so opposed to it and so discordant with it.
So how is she handling the discordance that you just described?
Isn't she exploiting that discord?
She's celebrating it, yeah.
She's saying, you want ballad? You want hymn? You want prayer? I'm going to crawl inside the very heart of the rhetoric and language and means of representation of this institution, and I'm going to sing it my way. You want prayer? You want offering? I'm going to give this aborted fetus to you. I'm going to lay it on your rhetorical doorstep. That's my offering. I mean, the reason I'm being so graphic is that she invites it. Thrust deep the long curette. What's she saying there? Let's not be too graphic, but...
Abort away.
Go ahead, make my day. Abort away, nice. This is really, I find it very spine-chilling to read the last line. She's saying, this is what you want? You want to look the other way? You want to be blind while I see? Well, guess what? Life, avenging pain, will speak. And I will speak in rhymes, and I will speak in meter, and I will speak in your song until you see me plain. Go ahead. Make my pain. So, does the choice of fairly strict traditional poetic form work in the service of the poem's radicalism, its content radicalism? Allie?
That's what I would say.
By creating a formal irony. Emily, yes?
Yeah.
Powerful for you?
Yeah.
Amaris?
Yeah, I think it's very effective.
So we're finding that form can be ironic. Not exactly something you depend on modernism for, but we looked at John Peel Bishop's Fuck You Half-Ass poem, which is called A Recollection, and we discovered that form can get ironized. There for the kind of high hilarity 1920s high modernism purpose. This for a political purpose. Dave, thought on the formal irony?
She uses it as a Trojan horse to get into the front door, and then...
A ballad as a Trojan horse. I like poetry. I like not only poetry, but modern poetry, where, as we've said before, once you've seen modernism, you can't possibly go back. The genie has been let out, and you must, when you use the traditional form, you must reckon with what it stands for. Form means. Form signifies. It's not simply a story about abortion. The form is the thing that clinches this poem. Your thought, Anna?
I don't know. I think that just as the way that the teens and 20s were a time of making it new, the Depression is also a time of making it new.
So
the Depression is also...
You're kind of not persuaded by the traditionalism here. You'd like it to be newer.
I think that there are other ways to make it new than going, kind of having this knee-jerk back to what was before modernism. I don't know. I can't get what we've seen in modernism out of my head.
Molly?
But I kind of like that it's sort of a signifier or a symbol of the Depression that she's using something old. She's having to reuse something and recycle something because the resources aren't there to make a whole new thing.
Oh, that's so meta. I love that. That's really cool. Max?
I think I disagree with you, Anna. I think if there's certainly a sort of political urgency to this poem, and it's definitely not like the modernists that we've seen concerned so much with itself or with language or with poetry, but definitely with the issue that it's addressing. And so I think it is very effective to not to just talk about it, but rather to have this sort of subverted form as a way to get to the heart of the matter there. And
I appreciate what she's doing, definitely. It's just not what I would have done in her situation.
So again, the question we applied before to Genevieve Taggart is, does the revolution that is augured in the content of the poem, does it extend to the means of representation? And here the only way to do that is to see the traditional formal choices ironized, the Trojan horse mode.